Hello, my name is Grin, and this is my beard. What crumb is in my beard today? Today, I'm going to talk about 2011 and what the crazy stuff that I did in 2011 or after, shortly after 2011. 2011 was when the great earthquake in Japan happened. It was a 9 point something on the Richter scale. It was pretty massive. I was at the time I was working at a elementary school. No, it wasn't elementary school. It was a kindergarten. I was working at a kindergarten, and I was on lunch break, and I had left to go get something to eat for lunch, and all of a sudden everything just started shaking, and the ground was shaking. Everything was shaking. I had stopped at a 7-Eleven, and then it shook for I don't know how many minutes. You could see the ground just like crumbling, all the road, the pavement just buckling and coming apart, and the inside of the 7-Eleven was just thrashing about. It was very scary, very scary. But the tsunami that happened afterwards was probably the more scary part. That tsunami came through, especially in what was it? Uh, what prefecture was that? I don't know where the Daiichi nuclear power plant is. I don't know why right now I can't think of. It's north of Chiba. It's called yeah, getting old, and so I'm forgetting things because I spent a lot of time on this during that time, and it's like I don't know, maybe it was stressful to the point where I just have forgotten all of it. But I'm trying to remember some of it now. After that happened, the Daiichi nuclear power plant went into meltdown and exploded, releasing tons of uh, nuclear material or nuclear radioactive material into the atmosphere and into the land. Excuse me for my cough or my throat thing. Um, it was bad. Fukushima. Jeez, now it comes to me. Fukushima. Well, there's still areas in Fukushima that are no go zones. I mean, it's just like in Ukraine with the nuclear meltdown that they had there at. Man, I am getting old. I can't even remember that one. The name of it. Yeah, that place. But yeah, there's still places you can't go to in Fukushima because of the radiation. And at the time, I was living in Gunma, and I was just getting ready to get married, getting ready to start a new life with my family that I have now, and it was really really stressful. And shortly after this all happened, there was a lot of news about fish being contaminated with radiation, radioactive particles, and the food that we were getting was being tested for radioactive material and stuff like that. And so I was like, I want to do something about this. I want to make sure that we're safe. And I decided to try against my wife's better judgment. Decided to try creating my own scanning company called NERNSA, which is Niigata Independent Radionuclide Survey and Analysis, where I had purchased a what is it called, a lead perscovite, uh, lead perscovite. What was it? Halide lead perscovite uh, tube detector, and or tube, yeah, detector, and a very weak spectrosc spectroscope, which was actually a modified Geiger counter, but using the halide lead perscovite detector, you could actually determine the power range of the or the you could come up with a spectrogram of what kind of radiation you were receiving, and that would tell you what the possible radioactive material was. The most likely, like certain radioactive materials have certain uh, uh, levels of power in their. I don't want to go. I can't explain it right now, but at the time it was like I'm going to test things and make sure we're okay, and I'm pretty sure there's going to be people who want to test uh, their things around them, the food that they're eating or the water that they're drinking and whatnot. No, nobody was really interested in that. Nobody was interested in anything independent. I didn't get any people ordering to have anything tested or scanned. I did test many different things, from dirt to broccoli, and I never found anything that had anything more than just radio background radiation levels of radiation. It was all normal. So it was a lot of money that I had spent on this kit. Stuff was pretty expensive. Still is pretty expensive, but then it was even more expensive, especially during that time because there were other people trying to buy various Geiger counters and spectroscopy equipment and stuff like that. And talking to all kinds of people in the industry of nuclear radiology, nuclide research and whatnot. And during that time, it was just everybody was like, "Well, what are we gonna do? We're worried about the radiation." And I was one of those people who was hoping to, make it easier for people, but it never turned out to be as big a problem as we had thought it would be. We meaning people in uh, my area and people who I spoke with. Now, it was a big problem, but specifically, mostly it was a big problem for Fukushima. In that area, it was a totally big problem. And the fact that the power plant was still, they hadn't come up with a plan to cap it off or to stop it from continuing to create more contamination. And so it was a pretty big deal then. Now now it's just like an afterthought. You talk to people about it and they're like, "Oh yeah, I remember that." Yeah, and nobody talks about it now. No, here in Japan, nobody that I have ever talked to has ever said anything about the Daiichi nuclear power plant or the problem with radiation. Um, at least that I remember. So even if I did have a conversation about it with somebody, it was probably I brought up the subject, and it didn't go anywhere. So I created this company, hoping to do something with it, and 3 months later, it was like obvious that this was going to go nowhere, and so I cut my losses and I sold off the equipment as quick as I could. Since I knew it was still a big enough deal that there were people that wanted the equipment, uh, and so they could they there were still people who wanted to get that equipment. So I sold it as quick as or got rid of it, returned what I could, and sold the rest as quick as I could. Good thing because now would have just been a waste of money. Could have been a neat thing to like show my kids and maybe teach them about you know um, nuclear energy or radio nucleotides and stuff like that. But it's kind of high level stuff, and I don't think they'd get any usefulness out of it until at the earliest high school, and even then they'd probably still be like, "This is not simple stuff to understand." Even now, it's just like since I haven't been studying it, and since I don't have all my textbooks in front of me now, I just like I can't remember most of it or even how to explain it anymore. Even then, it was hard to explain, but now it's just like I can't even tell you what I'm talking about. It was this brainy stuff. It's really not for the weak of heart, because to really understand how to do this stuff and to understand what it all means, you need to have an education in this kind of nuclear physics. And if you don't, then good luck trying to get any information or try useful information. So that was a thing that happened in 2011, 2012, and by 2012, by 2013, uh, NERNSA was we had just liquidated everything. It was gone, and I still have the Facebook page NERNSA. Um, some stuff on there that I've tried to, you know, just post whatever I could get information on. And I never posted my radio spectroscopy data because there was no data. It was the only thing I was getting was background radiation. So it was like, what am I supposed to report on? There's nothing. There was nothing to report. I didn't get any samples of anything of any interest, and I had some cesium uh, samples that I could test with, and those were fine, but there wasn't any of that in the stuff that I was testing, except for the actual cesium samples. So what made no sense. And even now, it's like it doesn't bother me now. I've done that. I did the checking in radio spectroscopy and trying to find some sort of contamination and never found any. So it's why worry about it now? And I'm wondering, just because I didn't find anything doesn't mean there isn't anything there. And that's the thing with radiation, ionizing radiation. You don't know without some sort of a tester or anything like that. You don't know, and you won't know until maybe 10 years later, and you go to the cancer center because you've got cancer, and they find out that, yeah, well, you actually have some sort of uh, contamination. You've been contaminated in this way or that way. Even then, if let's say you had cancer, it's like there's no way to say that, oh yeah, this is because of radiation. There might be a way to figure it out. This looks like it might be caused by radiation. Like if you have a bone cancer or something like that, those are usually pretty easy to figure out. That there are ways, there are certain signs, certain symptoms that would show that, but not really seeing that much now. There are a lot of people who are, a lot of my friends have had cancer. I've had some friends die from cancer, but they were older people too. Although some of my younger friends, Japanese people who have had cancer, they're in their 50s or 40s. And one of the bigger ones is colon cancer, colon and stomach cancer. I've had one friend who had major surgery and a long term therapy for uh, colon cancer, and another one who died from stomach cancer. So it's it's hard to say. None of that stuff probably came from the disaster, 2011 Daiichi nuclear power plant or anything like that. None of it came from that, I don't think. Nobody's even suspecting it. So, and now I don't really get any news on that stuff anymore. And also, similar thing happened with the coronavirus. Back when it was a thing, um, I was in, I was talking to this and that doctor or this and that researcher and reading all kinds of research papers and whatnot. And now that it's not even a thing anymore. It's like I haven't read any recent medical journals or anything like that. I've been doing other things. It's just, yeah, right now it's not important to me anymore, so I'm not doing it anymore. It's just like, really, do you need to go through all that? Did I need to go through all that? Did I need to, study uh, radionuclide? Uh, did I physics? Did I need to do that? Did I need to, study uh, medicine and biology? Uh, I took a mock USMLE test. A friend of mine who's a doctor gave me a few um, questions of it, and I didn't do great. Like, I'm not a doctor, so why would I even think I would do well on it? People go to medical school for years to learn this stuff, but I was like, I mean, how much do I know? I just kind of, I don't know, wanted to challenge myself. you, the USMLE is the United States medical license test, um, medical license exam. And so I took a mock test of it, and I got 30%. But if you think about it, this is all specific medical knowledge and whatnot. So even 30%, I guess, isn't that bad, right? 30%. That's the worst grade I've ever gotten on any test I've ever taken. But yeah, we're talking the USMLE here. So, that was interesting and very eye-opening. And some of those questions are just really like, oh, unless you have specific knowledge in this is going to be difficult. This is and knowing all the like markers, all the names of everything. God, I have a lot of respect for any doctor who can get a passing grade on the USMLE. It's lots of book knowledge too. Most of it is book knowledge. It's like, what do you do if someone comes in with uh, uh, this condition, and their blood test has this and the CT scan has this on it, and what would you say is the diagnosis for that? It's not stuff like that. It's yeah, it's a why did I go through all this? I think I have this like desire to learn. It's just never gone away. I've always been like, when I want to know something, I really get into it and start studying it really hard. Why is that? Why do I put myself through that? I must be ADHD, and that's why maybe my kids are ADHD. I don't know. Must be, maybe. But when I was younger, I got tested by a couple different psychiatrists, psychologists, tested for this and that, everything, anything that could possibly be wrong with me or different with me or anything. And the doctors, they didn't have any. They're like, no, this kid is just a normal kid. It's nothing weird about him. Nothing. But I'm thinking maybe that because that was 20 something years ago. 20 something years ago, almost 30 years ago, maybe 30 years, almost 30 years ago. Maybe they missed something. Maybe there wasn't enough um, study then, or enough knowledge then, to know that, oh yeah, this is a sign of ADHD or whatever. And I always wonder. And I've tried speaking with other psychiatrists and whatnot about it, is there something wrong with me? And they're like, you need to go into a clinical psychologist and have them test you. And My I was tested for a few things while I was in Japan, and even then, nope, nothing. Now, I'm in Japan, so my wife thinks that I'm just a weirdo anyways, because my cultural aspects are way different from hers. And so we often butt heads because what the way she thinks and the way I think are just very different. And she says, "Oh, it's because you're a foreigner. Maybe it's because you have Asperger's syndrome or something like that." And I'm like, "I don't have anything wrong with me, and you're a foreigner to me, so I don't know." But I always tried to check to make sure if there is something wrong with me, I want to know about it, and then maybe I can do something to make our lives better. But no, I haven't found anything yet. Yet. um, so 2011 was kind of like the year that started all the craziness. And then it happened again in what 2020, 2021 with coronavirus. What's the next thing that's going to happen? What's the next thing that's going to like make me want to really do something? I don't know, but now I'm studying Japanese or studying Japanese writing, I should say. I learn a lot of new words too, improving, increasing my vocabulary, and um, soon I'll be able to write in Japanese as well. Well, not soon, but eventually. I think it'll take quite a while. Quite a while. It's gonna take a while. Uh, well, that's kind of what was on my mind when I talk about 2011 and the whole scare of the Daiichi nuclear power plant. And well, things have changed. Nobody's really worried about it anymore. Every once in a while, you'll see something in the news about them dumping water into the ocean or something like that. And even then, it's like all the smart people and the um, all the people that deal with this kind of stuff, they're saying that's not as big a deal. The only people who are saying it's a big deal is the people who have something to gain from uh, any kind of backwash from it. Like, oh, Japan's doing this, so if we say that it's really bad, then people will think worse of Japan. Like North Korea will say something, China will say something, South Korea will say something about it because they have a vested interest in seeing Japan have difficulties. Yeah, but that's pretty much it. There's no there's nothing really to worry about so far. If there is, then tell me otherwise. But as far as I can see, and I did my own testing and spent many thousands of dollars on equipment. And yeah, I probably could have spent more if I wanted to get more specific, but no, I think 10 $20,000 worth of equipment was enough at the time. If there was anything that would have been enough to find something, and it wasn't enough to find anything of note. With that kind of equipment, if something did come up of note, then it would be like, yeah, this is definitely something of note. But anyways, that's what was in my beard. It's been kind of floating around in there. I finally pulled it out and threw it at you. Thanks for watching.